Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football. And man, I'm excited because KT, a.k.a. The Grinch, is coming on the Only Nation podcast.
Hey, the new league year is about to kick off. I have a broken microphone, and up next we have free agency, so let's go.
Today on the show, we will look at the past week covering Raiders news, and then we'll shift our focus to free agency. Then we will welcome in this week's special guest, Ken Thomson of SportsX Radio.
All right, Raider Nation, this is the Only Nation podcast, and we want to hear from the Only Nation. So be sure to give us a call at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667.
Here's the latest Raider news.
Las Vegas will take on a $2.5 million hit in dead cap from LaMarcus Joyner's contract, rather than paying him the $9.95 million he was due this upcoming season. Signed to a 4-year, $42 million deal back in 2019, the 30-year-old Joyner essentially accrued $22 million for 28 games, failing to record a single interception in 2 seasons with the Raiders. He'll go down as one of the biggest free agency whiffs of the John Gruden-Mike Mayock era.
Yeah, this is unfortunate. I thought when we signed him, he was going to play well. But then, they moved him, out of position, dropped him into the slot, did not perform well. I was hoping that when Gruden said we're going to take it back to the chalkboard and figure out what we can do to put our players in a better position to play and win, I was hoping that Joyner would be at free safety. Of course, Heidi, you've been pounding the table for Joyner to be at free safety this whole time. It's unfortunate that these free agency contracts are not really working out. They're coming back to bite us in the ass. These players aren't really working out. And this is kind of why I'm beating the dead horse of we need to continue to build to the draft. Yes, we can bring in a few key free agents, but let's not spend big money on these free agents anymore. Let's bring these kids in from the draft and start focusing on re-signing our guys now. We need to get Colton Miller re-signed. We need to get, Good this year re-signed. Even though we didn't draft him, but he's been one of our guys for a while now. He's proven himself. Let's get these guys that are on our rosters that we believe can play for us. Let's keep these guys and be careful with some of these free agent signings.
And I know on the podcast we were all pounding the table for LaMarcus Joyner to be moved back to free safety. And I think had not COVID hit and the salary cap constraints that we have, they might have brought Joyner back for an additional year and tried him out at free safety. But again, with the COVID situation, with the cap situation, it just made sense to let him go. And maybe he'll catch on with the other team and do well, but we just need to move on ahead.
I think that some of these busts that we are picking up in free agency, it's not the players, it's the coaching. Because they're happening on the defensive side of the ball for the most part. And
totally agree.
That was on Paul Gunther and his team.
That is very much a true statement, but I just feel like if we're not in position as far as our coaching staff, then we need to be very careful. But let's see what Bradley can do. Ingram, he's a free agent. Played with Bradley. Sherman, free agent, played with Bradley. Again, I think that with our young guys, if we focus on our young guys and bring in these guys that can come in and be a coach on the field and help our young guys for a couple years, then, that's going to help the coach. And that's going to make those free agent contracts all the more valuable.
Offensive tackle Trent Brown has reworked his deal, setting up a trade between the Raiders and the New England Patriots, the team he played for prior to coming to the Raiders in 2019. Brown agreed to a new 1-year, $11 million deal as part of the arrangement, making him a free agent at the end of the 2021 season. The Raiders will be receiving a 2022 fifth-round pick from the Patriots in exchange for Brown and the Raiders' 2022 seventh-round pick.
Yeah, I really hated to see Trent Brown go. And Mike Mayock even made the comment that when Trent Brown is on the field and he's healthy, he is a dominant player. And he proved that in 2019 when he was on the field, but he just wasn't available. And in this league, you have to be available in order to earn your pay, in order to keep your spot on the team.
Again, I'm just going to beat a dead horse. This is why I want us to be careful with free agent contracts. I know this is the other side of the ball. But again, Tom Cable was a great coach and couldn't get him motivated. Could not get Trent Brown motivated. Who doesn't get motivated by Gruden, right? I mean, every time I hear the man, I'm pumped up. But again, good, willing to move from guard to tackle. Those are the type of players that, we need to re-sign. And so, again, I'm just very worried about these free agent signings. And here we are coming up on free agency.
Speaking of the offensive line, Paul Gutierrez of ESPN has put out an interesting article that chronicles the recent moving and shaking of the offensive line, which includes placing a priority on re-signing swing guard tackle Denzel Good and a step up this year of Brandon Parker. The article also mentions backups Andre James and Eric Magnuson, Lester Cotton Jr., and three-time Pro Bowl guard Kyle Long, the son of former Raider Howie Long. He's coming out of a one-year retirement at the age of 32, although he has not yet inked a deal with any team after leaving the Bears last year.
Offensive line, I have no problems at all bringing in one, maybe two additional guys through free agency. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys available out there. I think right now the Raiders can just sit back and play their options and see who's out there, who they might be able to add as an additional piece, and then maybe even add to that with the draft. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. I hear a lot of panic in Raider Nation about the offensive line. Oh, they're losing all their guys. They're not going to have anybody. I think people need to slow their roll a little bit. I think the offensive line will be okay.
The Raiders saved $7.1 million in cap space for 2021 by restructuring the contracts of two linebackers, Nick Kwiatkowski and Corey Littleton.
And this will just help the team maybe add one more key piece, maybe two more key pieces to that defensive side of the ball, which is really what I think they need to do. And I'm focusing on that free safety position. I really think they need to bring in a dominant player, somebody with a lot of experience. The name Richard Sherman has been bandied around quite a bit, and I like that move. I like that potential move.
Me being worried about free agents coming in and not playing well, I do like Corey Littleton redoing this because, he was one of those free agents, but at least this shows that he's willing to work with the team. This is the type of guy that we want on our team, not a Trent Brown that's going to just miss 16 out of 32 games. We don't need that, or LaMarcus Joyner who may not play well in multiple positions. I like that Kwiatkowski and Littleton are doing this, trying to help the team. Maybe if Joyner would have done that, he would still be on the team. Who knows? But I do like that these guys are doing this to help the team because that's important right now. We did not expect this. Nobody expected this. We all expected the salary cap to go up, not down. And now we had to make all these moves. And I think that these are the type of free agents we need to look for. Guys that are team first and willing to do what they got to do to help the team. So while I'm leery about signing some of these free agents, I'm happy that these two free agents that we signed last year are willing to work with the team. So I won't be gun shy. I wouldn't be too gun shy about free agency, but I still believe we need to build to the draft.
And on a sad note, we at the Only Nation podcast would like to pass along our thoughts and prayers to the family of Steve Ortmeyer, who passed away last week. Steve served as a special teams coach and football operations director over 2 stints with the Silver and Black. As special teams coach, Steve's units were consistently among the league's best and helped the Raiders capture 2 Super Bowl championships. He will be missed by Raider Nation. Once a Raider, always a Raider.
Yeah, may he Raider in peace. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Our thoughts and condolences go out and our prayers go out to his family.
I remember his name came up several times when we had John Kingdon on the show. And of course, that just takes us back to those glory days of the 70s and 80s where the Raiders had so many things to celebrate, and we're hoping that we get back to those days. But certainly we want to pass our condolences along to the Ortmeyer family.
And now we would like to welcome in our special guest for this week's show, Ken Thomson, host of SportsX Radio. With over 25 years of sports broadcasting experience, Ken has become a trusted authority due to his expertise in all major sports. He loves keeping up with sports that are in season, but now that the Raiders are in Vegas, he is focusing on his Silver and Black state and continues to work closely with the Raider Nation. We want to welcome Ken to the Only Nation podcast. Welcome.
Welcome, KT.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And once they say over 25 years, that's where you leave it, because otherwise they just say, this guy's old.
Hey, Ken, I'm right there with you. Welcome in. We're glad to have you on board.
There you go. That's right. And I always tell people, you might think that it's great being younger, but I got to see a lot of that Raider mystique back in the day. So you guys are watching that stuff on, the old archives, man. We got to see it live.
Yeah.
That's great. Ken, I'm just going to jump right in here with the first question. Of all the players brought in during the 2020 season, either through the draft or free agency, who do you think will make the biggest leap in 2021?
I'm hoping that it's going to be Henry Ruggs III. That's just a personal preference that it's twofold. Number one, he's got to stay healthy. Number two, they have to use him the way he should be used as far as I'm concerned. I would like to see him in motion at least 10 to 15 times a game. He's got that. It's not like he's going to get tired. The kid's 20 years old. End of the day, this is a guy that may be, the one person that may be able to run a foot race with Tyreek Hill and give him a run for his money. I know Scotty Miller thinks he could do that, but I truly feel that Ruggs would be the only guy that could beat him in the NFL. So you have to take advantage of that speed, and you have to take advantage of the deception of putting someone in motion. And so that's where, although I'm not Dad's fan as far as Mike Shanahan, I am a fan of the way the younger Shanahan runs the offensive move, sets and things that he does up there with the 49ers, because there's a lot of deception created. And I think that we have a quarterback that throws the ball better, whether it's Carr, whether it's Mariota. So if we had some deception with Ruggs in motion a lot more, I think that this guy could step up and truly be a dangerous weapon that takes pressure off Waller and the rest of the receiving core, and also Josh Jacobs in the backfield.
I believe early in the year that they were really trying to incorporate Ruggs in motion and all this and that, but then he got injured, and so I think that held him back a little bit. But when he did come back, then he started finding it hard to get off the press. So a lot of it is on Ruggs, I believe, in the offseason to get stronger. But you got to get off that press, because he does have that Tyreek Hill type speed, and he can definitely open up the field for a stretch that field and bring back the long ball for the Raiders. He would be an excellent player to start stepping up and playing better.
See, and that's my point exactly, though, Doug, is when you have Ruggs in motion all the time, you're not worried about the press, because you don't know where he's going to turn the corner on the other side or whether he's going to stop while in motion and come back the other side. And if you watch Kansas City take advantage of Tyreek Hill, that's what they do, whether it's Hill, whether it's one of the other guys, McCole Hardman, whether it's Robinson, whoever it is that they have in motion, that guy, all of a sudden, he looks at where the defender is, whether that defender is crossing, with him and following him, or whether they're going to shift him off to somebody else. So he knows then where to turn it upfield, and that in turn will give him an opportunity to not have to worry about press coverage as much.
All right, Ken, shifting our attention now toward the coaching staff, and this is kind of a loaded question here, but how short a leash do you think Coach Gruden will have if the Raiders should happen to not make the playoffs coming up in 2021?
Well, I think, the ambiance will have worn off a little bit. I mean, this is year 4 coming up. Look, got a mulligan the first year. Draft was outstanding the second year. Filled in with some nice free agency pickups. Some of the guys were disappointments that came over that on paper and on past performance looked like they were going to have success. And I know COVID threw a monkey in the wrench for everybody in the NFL. So it's not just the Raiders, but when you're bringing that many new faces and bodies, it's a lot tougher to get cohesiveness and chemistry together. As far as Coach Gruden, there's just some things that I think he still reverts back to his old ways. Things have changed in the NFL. I know he wants to move forward as far as being somebody that thinks a little bit more modern. But at the end of the day, I don't mind him, coaching the way he does if he indeed is able to take advantage of what the Raiders have offensively. And again, I'm giving almost everybody in any sports team somewhat of a mulligan from this past year, because you just didn't have the time to gain that chemistry. And when you have a lot of young players like Abram and Crosby and Mullen and all these guys, it's not easy. I mean, people think you're just going to go out on the field, and then, you throw in that there's no fans in the stands. And I was there at Allegiant Stadium. It's one of the weirdest things. In fact, I went to the game against the Buccaneers, and just watching and listening to coaches and players yell from the sidelines where you can hear everything. It was definitely different. It was odd. And so I'm giving him a mulligan, but I think if he doesn't perform this year, and that means 2 ends of the season, because the first 10 games have been great the last 2 years. The last 6 games have sucked, and they've cost us postseason runs, or potential postseason runs, or at least getting to the postseason, getting that monkey off our back. So especially this past year, I was very, very disappointed. And I know there's injuries, and I know there's different things, but I was disappointed in Coach Gruden. I was very disappointed, as Doug knows, when they bring in Marcus Mariota, when Derek pops his groin. And sure, Derek's going to rush back to get back. He's always the fastest healer ever. But he saw the writing on the wall. He saw 3 quarters of masterful performance by Marcus Mariota. 88 yards on 9 carries, 225 in 3 quarters of action. Yes, a tipped interception, but he threw a touchdown. But he had 3 run-pass option handoffs, or so I thought, to Josh Jacobs, where he kept the ball. One of them led to his touchdown, his rushing touchdown. And the Raiders are lacking that. And so when we see that 3 quarters from Marcus Mariota, regardless whether or not Derek rushes himself back and is ready for the Miami game, there's no reason that Marcus Mariota does not start that game and let us see what we have. Number one, whether it's a modern-day run-pass option quarterback that lost his job to Tannehill and now is ready to get another lease on life, so to speak, and show that he belongs as a starter. Derek Carr, although he is mobile and can run, he doesn't. He chooses to rely on his arm. Yes, he had a couple decisive runs this year, more so than we've seen in years past, but he is not somebody inside the 20-yard line or inside the 10 or inside the 5 that is going to scare me as far as a run-pass option. And I think that's a problem with the Raiders, and that's on Gruden, because they're very predictable after rookie year by Josh Jacobs. Now everybody knows him. So everybody and their mother knows, Coach Gruden, that you're handing the ball to Josh Jacobs on 1st and goal. And so it's leaving us 2 downs to get in the end zone, and I would have liked to see Mariota get that opportunity. He didn't, and unfortunately now with the salary cap drop, we may not see Marcus Mariota in silver and black this year, and we may see him excelling for somebody else.
I wanted to see Mariota in the RPO inside the 5-yard line, and we talked about that a lot on this podcast. But one thing I do like about Derek Carr rushing back is that shows his toughness. And he did know that the writing was on the wall. But that lets you know that Derek Carr he's not feeling comfortable, like his job is automatically handed to him. Now, as far as Gruden's leash, I believe that Gruden's leash is a lot longer than maybe some people want it to be, because of the first year, right, getting a mulligan, right? They had to completely blow up that team. And then last year with the COVID. But besides COVID, I believe that Mark Davis brought in Gruden to you give him like 6 or 7 years, unless he's going to get 6 or 7 years unless everything really just goes to hell. Because Mark Davis, he wants to take his time building this team in Vegas. And I believe that he knows that he cannot rush to try to get a Super Bowl, that was a mistake that his dad made in his latter years, trying to get another Super Bowl win. I believe that Mark Davis is a lot more patient than that, and he's going to give Gruden a big leash or a long leash. And that's proven. Like he went to try to get the stadium in Inglewood. That didn't work out. He stayed calm, stayed patient, and got the stadium in Vegas. So I believe Gruden's going to be there a lot longer. And as far as, Gruden not being so Manila, I think that what Gruden wants to be really is dominant. And so instead of handing off that ball to Jacob, we need that big running back, that Zach Crockett, that Mike Allstott. And it looked like Ingold was going to be that guy, but then he hurt his ribs. But again, yeah, it would have been nice to see Mariota. Maybe we would have had more trade interest if we'd let him play a little bit more. But I do appreciate that Derek Carr wanted to lead his team on the field.
No, I like that about Derek, and there's no question that he's done that before. But here's the thing. In that Miami game, although the defense floundered at the end inexcusably, and the face mask on Fitzpatrick by Arden Key gave another 15 yards to a team that should never have been near midfield after that cover 2 where, Mullen Arnett just lets the receiver go, which is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, Arnett should go back,
right?
Because who cares if they throw a 5-yard pass,
right,
or an 8-yard pass? That's in front of you. They're down around their own 20. I mean, it's,
he had to make up in his mind.
Here's the thing it does. Hold on. Here's the other thing. In that game, you're Derek Carr. You know what he was on 3rd down? 0 for 10. That's unexcusable. So while they were in position to beat Miami, they may have been 20 points ahead with Mariota based on the guy we saw 3/4 of the game before. He steps in, his first pass to Aguilar on the sidelines is perfect. His next pass to frickin' Waller in the end zone is perfect. His run pass options were outstanding. And Derek Carr does not give us that. So whether you want to see Mariota just pop in there like Taysom Hill, it's too expensive in this day and age to just do that. Why don't you take advantage of seeing what Mariota's true skill set is? If they had done that in the Miami game, regardless of whether or not they said Derek's still our guy, your value for Mariota as far as trade value to where now you're fielding a number 2 or potentially a number 1 pick instead of talking about releasing him or getting a number 5 pick for him or a 5th round draft choice for him, which I think is absolutely ludicrous because I will tell you that Mariota, wherever he goes, if the Raiders cannot re-sign him, he is going to excel for someone else. And the reason teams are balking now, even on trade with Mariota, is because of the way his contract was put together. So I give his agent a lot of credit because if you make Marcus Mariota a starter and you pick him up free agency wise, you no longer are paying him $10.5 million. If the Raiders trade him, you are paying him $20 million because his incentives in that contract were set up that way that if he becomes your starter, you're paying him extra money. And so teams are balking. That's why you're not getting those trade offers that all were coming in initially when the Raiders were looking to drop salary cap, because it's not the same salary cap that they thought of $10.5 million. It's now closer to $20 million if he becomes your starter.
Well, there you go. You may be able to tell. We've had this conversation before.
All right, Ken. If you had to make a top 5 list of free agents, what would your list look like? Would it have specific names or just specific positions of need?
Would be names and of course, needs. And the Raiders defensively, I'd like to see Richard Sherman come in, reunite that relationship he had with Gus Bradley, Legion of Boom. He's a veteran. He's probably got a couple years left. He stays in pretty good shape, and he's a very cerebral player, as we know, out of Stanford, knows the game inside out. And I think he would be somebody, you know, when you put them together with guys like Abram and Mullen and, you know, all the youngsters that they have in the secondary, the youngster out of La Tech, all these players and Arnett out of Ohio State, they need leadership. And so I think Sherman is perfect. I also would love if they could ever work it out and figure out a way to pay this guy. I would love Kyle Van Noy. Kyle Van Noy's a beast. And so him being let go by the Dolphins, I'm telling you, man, I know he got hurt, but this guy, when he's healthy, I've been watching this guy since he's at BYU. This guy is a beast. He can cover. He can do it all. He hits as hard as anybody. I would love to have that guy as one of our linebackers. And, you know, those are 2 guys that I covet. Also, keep an eye on John Brown. If by some chance that Nelson Aguilar doesn't get re-signed, which to me is ludicrous, the guy was more than you gave him you give him the Missouri contract, like, show me state. Okay, well, I think he showed you and then some. I mean, it doesn't get any better than what Nelson Aguilar did. Not only did he stop the dropsies that he had his last year in Philadelphia, but he got behind opposing defenses several times, and that's something we did not see from Aguilar in his Philadelphia days except once or twice. He was the guy that was stretching that field. And if you have that guy stretching the field on one side, Ruggs on the other side, and then you've got Waller underneath, good luck, defense.
All right, looking specifically at the running back room, do you see either Devontae Booker or Jalen Richard coming back in 2021? How should the Raiders address the backfield?
I actually do. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, we were talking about a great 1-2 tandem of Jacobs and Booker for a few games, and then all of a sudden he's getting 4 carries, 2 carries. I mean, what is that? I mean, if it's working and you're spelling, Booker was in great shape, and he's a physical back. And he's somebody that could take pressure off Josh Jacobs. Josh was banged up. Sure, he went over 1,000 yards, but, you know, compared to what he did his rookie year, and that's because defenses will key on him. And so I like getting Booker in there once out of every 3 downs, giving Josh a break there, unless he's just in that mode on a drive to where you're like, okay, this is a drive. We're going to tax him on this drive because if we don't give him the ball, the defense is going to be looking for him to get the ball. So that's going to take pressure off Derek or who's ever quarterbacking. So I do think we'll see them all. Also, let's remember Jalen Richard. Although he's of a diminutive stature. He came in and is in the best shape that we've ever seen him. He bulked up. His guns were amazing. And we also saw him pick up that blitz for Henry Ruggs' touchdown against the Jets. If he doesn't make that block there, Derek never gets that pass off. So Jalen Richard is somebody that's an underrated blocker as well. I think both of those guys can come back if they can work it out. Again, good luck to Mayock and Gruden figuring everything out with $182 million salary cap.
Yeah, I'd like to see Richard come back because he is that third down back that can block, when they check out of whatever play they might have and they need some extra protection. But I still think that they need a bigger back. They need that back that they can line up and the defense knows what's coming and that can make something happen, that can pound that inside over and over. And then in the fourth quarter, that opens up for Josh Jacobs. But I think they need a bigger back than Booker and Richard. But between the two, I'd rather keep Richard.
Well, if you watched Alec Ingold play at Wisconsin, and I did, and I'd been to Madison. My wife's from just outside of Madison, so I've been to Camp Randall, and I watched Alec Ingold play up close and personal. This guy is not just a blocker, and he also has very soft hands. He is somebody that can be your lead blocker in an I formation when you think Jacobs is going to get the ball and have Ingold go through the line off tackle and then just throw a little pass to him. The guy has excellent hands. I think he's very underused. Yes, he's a good, solid blocker, but let's not use him just for that. If he's got soft hands and he's somebody that can make a play, when our guy over there that rushes for the Colts now out of Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor, when he was there and Ingold was his lead blocker, they were deceptive and they give Ingold that ball sometimes as that first guy, and he'd bust it and he'll knock that first guy on his keister the way John Ritchie used to do.
When I saw Ingold play in college in Wisconsin, I saw a lot of remnants of Mike Allstott there. I saw a lot of similarities in the game, and I really thought that Gruden was going to put him to work a lot like Mike Allstott in the lineup.
That's a great call, and that's a great analogy, too. Never forgetting Mike Allstott, because we can't forget the way and the vigor that he played with. But you're right, that style, I think, although he's not at that level yet, I think there is that ceiling that could be high enough for him to achieve that. You're right. And if Gruden puts some type of confidence in him, like, hey, you're not just my blocker, and maybe, 3 times a year we're going to toss you a pass in the end zone when no one's covering you. I like that. And I think that's just another wrinkle that, again, would give opposing defenses something else to think about. So while I talk about the Ruggs in motion and even Aguilar in motion, whether it's Ruggs, it's White, I mean, you can do all these different things. If you go back and watch those old Washington football team, and I actually just had Joe Theismann on my show. He came out to one of the places that I did, but he was talking about, that motion and sets, and the Raiders do a lot of double tight end sets. So have those guys go in motion, have them alternate. All of a sudden, you're putting so many different things in the defense's mind that they have to worry about, instead of just Derek lined up in shotgun, dropping 5 steps back to the same freaking spot all the time and becoming a target and putting pressure on what's a very solid offensive line when they're together all year. And God bless them. I give them credit for the type of protection they gave last year. Guys like Denzel Good stepping up. And of course, we never worry about Rodney Hudson because he's the best center in the game. But, Derek, to me, is so predictable where he stops, where he drops, and where he sets the throw. And he can throw it as well as anybody. When he has time and he's able to get his weight behind him and has some, there's nobody that can throw the ball any better than Derek. There's some that can throw him as well, but there's nobody that throws it any better than Derek. So I understand the dilemma you're at when you're trying to figure out his quarterback situation, because you want to, and that's why I felt that the Raiders kind of screwed themselves by not taking advantage of having Mariota under contract last year, taking the best of what Derek has, the best of what Mariota has together. You have 2 quarterbacks that, to me, it's as lethal as can be, because, you talk about Mahomes all the time. Well, I think Derek, when he's stationary and he's standing there and has protection, throws the ball better than Mahomes. I know Mahomes throws it 7 different ways and can fire this and that, but Derek Carr's got touch on that ball like nobody else, except maybe Tom Brady. And so, there's a lot there for the coaching staff to think about. And I think, they got their work cut out. So, great questions.
So we all believe here at the Only Nation podcast that Derek Carr is going to be the quarterback taking the snaps in 2021. Now, we know that you're adamant and you wanted to see more of Mariota. Now, the question is, are we going to be able to keep him? Now, the Raiders had Blanda, LaMonica, and Stabler all on the same team. So how likely do you think it is that the Raiders maybe made some move in order to keep Mariota? And yes, they signed Peterman, but I think Peterman's just they're always going to have 3 quarterbacks in camp. But how likely do you think it is that Mariota stays with the Raiders?
Yeah, it's again, it's that clause that comes into play, and that comes into play for the Raiders as well if that contract's not restructured. I would think there is a chance that Mariota could stay if the contract is restructured. I agree with you as far as Peterman. If they went to 2 quarterbacks, look, I know Gruden likes Peterman, and I know he sees potential there. And prior to him getting hurt in training camp at the end of last training camp, you saw that he improves, and he can take off. He is somebody we saw a couple of years ago in a game, an exhibition game where he ran about 45 yards on one play. So he's got that ability, and I know, Gruden likes that, and he's not afraid to run. But the reason he'll look to run more is because he doesn't pass it like Derek Carr. And so, boy, again, it's tough. I really wish they could keep Mariota. My main thing is if you have to let him go, if he's a salary cap casualty, then please don't just sell him for a song and some beads. I mean, at the end of the day, this guy is worth at least a 3rd-round pick, because I'm telling you, if you settle for a 5th or 6th-round pick just to shed salary cap, he's on your team. He can sit down and renegotiate. We just saw Mahomes sit down and renegotiate. If you truly want to win and you want to get everybody on the same page, there are people that are going to put their differences aside financially and say, look, okay, what can we do to structure it to where I'm still going to get what's fair to me, but I want to be part of this, and I think I can be an integral part of this, because if Derek Carr goes down and Nathan Peterman's your backup in week 11 and you're sitting at 8-2, you're screwed.
See, I believe that Derek Carr will restructure his contract. I think he's just waiting, and I think they're working behind the scenes right now to work it out to where he also gets an extension, because Derek Carr wants to finish his career with the Raiders. And I do believe that Gruden, although they would make a move if they needed to, I do believe that he believes in Derek Carr. So I think they're going to make an announcement that he restructures, but it's also an extension. I think Derek Carr is that kind of guy, and I think that's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about Derek restructuring his contract. And that, to me, yeah, that would be something that makes sense. Look, he got the signing bonus, a few years ago, and that's what put the Raiders in that predicament to where, look, you got Khalil Mack, you got the best edge rusher around, but you can keep him and Derek Carr at the price that Mack now won it, and his agent was adamant that he's going to get, especially after Aaron Donald signed his extension for the Rams, to where Khalil Mack wanted to be one of the highest played players, and rightly so. I get that. But all of a sudden, you're going to pay 2 of your guys 42% of what your cap is for 53 guys. Good luck fielding the rest of the team. You might have a great pass rusher, and you might have a quarterback. Well, you had that combination, and where did it get you? Nowhere.
All right, so we've talked about Ruggs improving. We talked about Derek Carr, improving. But other than Derek Carr and Ruggs, what other players do you think are under the microscope and really need to step it up and show improvement over last year's overall performance?
Well, I think now the young secondary, especially if camp, everything's good, and you're not going to have just Zoom meetings and whatnot, you're going to see these youngsters, including Jonathan Abram, that are going to be under the microscope, because you've got to find out whether or not this guy can play as an every down player on defense in the secondary at this level. We know what he did at Mississippi State. We know that he can't get away with playing with that type of reckless abandon in the NFL. Number one, you're going to get flagged because there's too many rules where you are under the microscope, especially from that safety position. But you've also got to kind of pace yourself, so to speak. I don't think that that's something that's been implored yet to Jonathan Abram, to where slow down. You got to pace yourself. You got to understand. I think Gus Bradley, with his philosophy and working with secondaries, will be able to work with those guys. So I think you're going to be okay there. But those are guys, to me, that are going to be under the microscope, are the secondary guys. And then guys that have gotten hurt, whether it's Kwiatkowski, who we love. We all saw what he did in the games when he was healthy. But you've got to be durable. You've got to be able to stay on the field. And that's a pet peeve for Gruden. That was one of the reasons that Conley was out of town. Other guys that couldn't stay on the field as far as in training camp. And I was going to joke and say the only free agent I really like to see the Raiders go after is that outstanding receiver, Antonio Brown.
Oh no!
I'm joking, of course. I mean, it crushed me to see that guy win a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing how amazing things happen to crappy people.
Yeah.
Ken, can you let the rest of our listeners know how they can follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me a couple different ways on Twitter at Ken Thomson 87. It's Thompson with no P, THOMSON, at Ken Thomson 87. The show is Sports X Radio. So all you put in Sports X Radio, Google, you'll see me right there. My show is Monday through Friday out of Las Vegas, 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific time. Those shows are archived 45 minutes after they end and are right there at sportsxradio.com. There's a live stream there, and KDWN is my station in Las Vegas, 720 AM, 101.5 FM, and that is a free app in Google Play or iTunes. But you can find me on radio.com everywhere, Sports X Radio. You put it in, and you're going to be able to find me, and I'm there. And I love Vegas. There's no place like Vegas. I'm a Jersey boy initially, but I've been on the West Coast for, probably close to 40 years now. I was in LA when the Raiders were there, and I'm in Vegas now, and I'm glad the Raiders are making Vegas their home.
Hey, before we let you go, how excited are you to go to Canton this year and see Tom Flores, Charles Woodson, and our friend, the Violator, going to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's just going to be an incredible time. There's no doubt. I'm glad that, the COVID is kind of tailing off a little bit. Hopefully by the time the first week of August rolls around, most of it will be behind us. I feel glass half full that way. But yeah, for Coach Flores especially, I've known Coach for, better than 25 years. He's been coming on my show, and I knew Cliff Branch very well as well. And I know what it meant for Coach to get that vote. We've been pushing for it on my radio show for a few years. And Jerry Kramer, the old Green Bay Packer, who actually made the block for Bart Starr on the Ice Bowl quarterback sneak against Dallas, for years and years, he was omitted from the Hall of Fame. They kept passing him up. They had Forrest Gregg and everybody else. And finally, I made a push with his daughter putting out some tweet. I had no clue the guy wasn't in the Hall of Fame. I thought it was the biggest travesty. And then to see that Coach Flores wasn't in. And so when I had Jerry on my show, I said, Jerry, it was so great for you to finally get in the Hall of Fame. And I didn't have to say the word that I always have trouble pronouncing, posthumously. And he said, well, that's great for me too, Ken. So it was great. But he also told me, you know what? I have no doubt that they will get it right and that the committee will look at the senior in Coach Flores and all he's meant to the game. And you're talking not only the first Hispanic to go in the Hall of Fame, first Hispanic quarterback, how about winning it as a player, an assistant coach, and not just as a head coach, but winning it twice as a head coach. Nobody else has done that. Ditka was the only one else to do that once. He did it as a player, assistant coach, and a coach. But Coach Flores has 2 Super Bowl wins for the Raiders, and he's a class act. Like I told him back in his heyday, if the Raiders were in Vegas, he would have been like going, coaching the Raider game at Allegiant Stadium, and then going and being a pit boss or a nightclub singer somewhere on the Strip.
Ken, I know this is not Raiders related or even football related, but shortly before we came on the podcast, I got the news, and I know you follow boxing a lot too, but we lost a great one who I followed for many years, and that's Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I
tweeted it out yesterday, and all I tweeted out, I said simply, thanks for the memories, Marvelous Marvin. I loved him. I enjoyed the fights with him in Hitman Hearns, with Sugar Ray Leonard. I was a fan. I was a Tommy Hitman Hearns fan. I appreciated Leonard from the Olympics, but I didn't like him as much. So I always rooted for Hagler and or Hearns against Leonard. And I thought he was a class act. I thought he was somebody that did a lot for underprivileged people outside of his boxing career. And I really liked him. I thought he was just a classy guy, and he will be missed. And I think we take for granted in this day and age that people like that will be around forever, and then they'll die on a little white pillow in their 80s. Well, for 66 years young, that was a shocker yesterday to me. And although I'm entrenched in the March Madness big time, I had to just step back and send out a personal tweet to the family and fans of Marvin Hagler, because I thought he was special.
Certainly thoughts and prayers to the family.
Absolutely.
No question.
All right. Thank you for coming on with us, Ken. We really appreciate you taking the time out to visit with us.
I appreciate you recognizing me and my radio show. And I'll just say that it's been a treat for me to get to know Doug. Raider Homer and do videos on the Fan Media Network this past year as we reviewed and previewed Raider games with myself, Violator, and Captain Jack Rackham. I look forward to continuing that in Las Vegas this year and hopefully in person most of the time. So it's special when you meet somebody and realize that they are more than just a fan. I mean, when I heard the Autumn Wind rendition on guitar by Dougie, I was blown away. And then to see that he was using my brother-in-law, Zach Wild's Bullseye guitar, that was incredible. And I think that kind of just solidified the bond that I have with Raider Homer. I think he's a class act, and I appreciate him big time.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody here. So, yeah, thanks for coming on and supporting us.
Ken, thank you so much.
No, for sure. It's great connecting with all of you, and you guys have a wonderful weekend. Be blessed. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Great. Take care.
Thank you again, Ken. We really appreciate you being here.
Hey, KT, thanks again for coming on the Only Nation podcast. Thanks for the kind words. Man, I'm looking forward to Canton, Ohio, man. Let's have a blast up there.
What a great interview. And Homer, he seems to think pretty highly of you.
Kiss up.
Hey, well, I think highly of him, so, I mean, I'm flattered. That guy is the real deal, been doing it for 25 years, and that guy is full of energy. When we do that show on Fan Media Network, man, I'm just trying to keep up with him, you know? Y'all think I get worked up. That guy, he's 100 miles an hour. He knows his stuff. He knows Raiders through and through, but it's not just about the Raiders. It's about all sports, man. You can get caught up on sports. You can get caught up on gambling. You can get caught up on all kinds of stuff on his show. That guy, Ken Thomson, he's a great host of Sports X Radio.
All right, T3, why don't you give us another rendition of Heidi's High Five?
And now it's time for another Heidi's High Five.
All right, here's this week's version of Heidi's High Five. Number 1, regardless of who the Raiders bring in along that defensive line via free agency, I am still pounding the table for a defensive tackle in round 1 of the draft, but only if it's one of 2 guys, Christian Barmore of Alabama or Washington's Levi Onwuzurike. Now, the team has other needs, I know, but they need to go young and strong along the defensive front. This is just another key piece. Number 2, I'm not panicking about the offensive line. The Raiders are still making moves to free up more cap space, and there's still a chance to bring back either Richie Incognito and or Gabe Jackson. There's going to be a lot of available talent upcoming, and I think the Raiders can just sit back and survey who else they might want to bring in. It'll be all right. Number 3, now if I'm John Gruden or Mike Mayock, I'm taking defensive end Carl Nassib into a back room and talking him up before camp start. Nassib signed a 3-year, $25.2 million contract with the Raiders last year. In 2021, Nassib will earn a base salary of $3.5 million, a roster bonus of $5.5 million, and a workout bonus of $250,000, while carrying a cap hit of $9.5 million and a dead cap hit of $5.75 million. The Raiders need to really motivate this guy and hope that he comes in and earns the money that they're paying him. Number 4, if Nelson Aguilar doesn't re-sign with the Raiders, I'm willing to roll the dice on second-year receiver Brian Edwards. The often injured star has a huge upside, but the Raiders really need to see if he's going to be that long-term solution or just another third-round bust from that 2020 draft class. And number 5, please, please, please get the ball to Foster Moreau in 2021. He showed flashes in 2019 before getting injured, and then I think he wasn't featured nearly enough in 2020. Moreau and Waller, in my opinion, could and should be one of the more dominant tight end tandems in the entire league next year. And that, my friends, is this week's version of Heidi's High Five.
Excellent, T3. I just want to pretty much comment on the Carl Nassib section. I don't think he's going to make the team. I think they're going to cut him soon. I know he has a big dead cap hit, but I just got a feeling that they're going to get rid of him, and he's not going to be around next year at all.
You know, we were talking to Ken Thomson about re-signing Mariota. Maybe this is a move that we make. Go ahead and let go of Nassib and try to keep a Mariota. You know what I mean? Again, this to beat a dead horse, this is what I'm worried about. We haven't been hitting on these free agents very much. We've had better luck with the rookies, I believe. Now, this could have been a Homer's Hammer segment, and we'll be bringing that segment out as we get closer to the season. But the way that people were jumping the gun about letting those guys go and blowing up the team, again, this was unexpected, this offseason salary cap being lowered. But now just stay calm because, look, Jackson wants to come back. These are good moves. Incognito wants to come back. If you go to jr60brands.com, if you go follow Joker Raider, he's working with Incognito now. So for me, I believe Incognito's coming back. Anyways. And then number 4, Aguilar. We were talking about, free agents. They gave him the 1-year deal, prove it deal. Now he proved it. So you got to keep this guy. Don't, do what you got to do to keep this guy. Don't necessarily go out and look for another guy, but keep this guy. And yes, with Ruggs, Renfro, and Edwards, we have that big body, the speedster, and the possession receiver. So get Aguilar to provide that extra speed in the Y, and let's go, because we're going to have a great offensive again, especially if Incognito and Jackson come back.
All right, give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave a voicemail or text message at that number, or send a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. Hey, Homer, did you know?
Hey, Homer, did you know?
All right, now it's time for another edition of Hey Homer, Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Homer and the rest of our listening audience a Raiders-related question with 3 possible answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. So here goes. Here's this week's question. The top 4 scorers in Raiders history are all place kickers. Sebastian Janikowski, George Blanda, Chris Barr, and Jeff Jager. And current kicker Daniel Carlson is already at number 11 on the list. What non-kicker has scored the most points in Raiders history? Is it A, Tim Brown, B, Marcus Allen, or C, Fred Biletnikoff? Homer, what do you think?
It's A, Tim Brown.
Heidi?
It's got to be Tim Brown. Marcus Allen wasn't there long enough, and Fred Biletnikoff played in a time when there wasn't that many touchdowns.
You all are absolutely correct. Tim Brown. The total number of points scored by this Raider is 626, including 104 touchdowns. Now, it's interesting to note Marcus Allen had 96 touchdowns, and he undoubtedly would be the all-time leader in non-kickers. In fact, he probably would be number 4 on the all-time list had he stayed with the Raiders. So, see, you got an easy one this week.
Finally.
And that about does it for this week. We want to thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. And we want to again thank this week's special guest, Ken Thomson. Please call us and give us your feedback on interviews, our takes, and share your take. We'll get you on the show. If you'd like to help support the show, buy us a hot dog at buymeacoffee.com/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as @KevlarPromDress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook.
Once again, Raider Nation, this is the Only Nation podcast, and we want to hear from the Only Nation. So give us a call at 904-701-8667. You can leave us a voicemail or send us a text message to that number. You can also email us at onlynationpod@gmail.com, and you can find us on both Twitter and Instagram by going to @onlynationpod. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at the Only Nation Podcast. Be sure to hit like and follow wherever you catch us on social media, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting apps, and toss us a 5-star review if you think we're up to it. And you can find me by going to theraiderhomerchannel.buzzsprout.com.
Once again, we want to remind you how important it is for the growth of this show for us to get your input. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raiders swag. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we could use on one of our upcoming episodes, and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us, 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. You can find me on social media, on Twitter at T3_sports703. on YouTube at T3 Sports Guy, and on Facebook at Tom, Thom Jones.
As always, we look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
We are not just a nation, we are the only nation.
Raiders!